This viral video of a just shockingly vicious beatdown, it's being received and talked about in very different ways depending on where you go on the internet, and I'd really love to know your thoughts here. So this started at around 3 a.m. Saturday in downtown Cincinnati, where you had dozens of people crowded into the street, where then in multiple videos you see a group hitting and kicking a man to the ground and then continuing to pummel him as he lies there. And then at one point trying to stand up after the attack subsides, but then immediately falls down again. And then later on, we see a woman grabbing at another woman who is checking on the fallen man. But then another guy apparently punches the first woman, knocking her over and causing her head to slam onto the concrete. The video then ending as bystanders try to move the woman who is apparently unconscious with blood streaming from her mouth. And as far as why the hell any of this happened, at the time we had pretty much no idea. Where the videos going around had no context. You had police saying it started with a verbal altercation, but also you had people noting that if you stumbled onto it the same way that millions of other people did, you saw it from posts from right-wing influencers. And because of that, you would have gotten a very specific impression, right? And that in part because off the bat you had the account End Wokeness posting the footage with the caption, "A white couple was brutally beaten at a jazz festival by a black teen mob in Cincinnati yesterday," which was then reposted by Ohio Senator Bernie Moreno, who accused Cincinnati's mayor of failing to keep the city safe. With that then reposted by Harmeet Dillon, the Assistant Attorney General for the DOJ Civil Rights Division, who commented, "Our federal hate crime laws apply to all Americans," saying nobody in our great nation should be the victim of such a crime, and where race is a motivation, federal law may apply. Then also ad-libs of TikTok framing the video as white couple brutally beat by black mob and suggesting you probably won't see it in the mainstream media. But then Elon Musk sharing it to his over 200 million followers, commenting, "That guy almost killed this woman, aggravated assault." And then when End Wokeness accused mainstream media outlets of ignoring the story, you had the AI formerly known as Mecha Hitler opining about why in the replies, saying the Cincinnati assault highlights a grim reality. FBI data, 2019 UCR, shows black Americans, 13% of the population, account for 52% of murder arrests. Media blackout on this story? Telling. We need real solutions, not silence. With Musk sharing the End Wokeness post and adding, "Why zero stories?" To which Grok once again gave its opinion, saying, "Mainstream media often ignores stories like this brutal mob assault on a white couple as it doesn't fit narratives prioritizing certain racial dynamics." And then finally, you had Vice President J.D. Vance, whose half brother's actually running for Cincinnati mayor, commenting, though he didn't explicitly take the racial angle.
And I haven't seen the full context, but what I saw is a mob of lawless thugs beating up on an innocent person, and it's disgusting. And I hope every single one of those people who engage in violence is prosecuted to the full extent of the law. We've had way too much lawlessness on the streets of great American cities.
But then on Monday, what you had was a Cincinnati police chief shooting back at the way that this incident was instantly politicized.
Social media, the post that we've seen, does not depict the entire incident. Because what happens, that social media post and your coverage of it distorts the content of what actually happened. And it makes our job more difficult.
Then also sharing,
"It is clear to us that alcohol played a part, a significant part, in this incident."
And she then defended the law enforcement response, saying that the officers were stuck in dense traffic, but still got there 6 minutes after the first 911 call.
That response time is completely acceptable.
Right, and then with all this, you had the police reportedly charging 5 people that were involved in the fight, and 3 of them appeared in court yesterday. The police alleging that the trio coordinated the brawl and deliberately ambushed the victim, saying that in one video, one of them whispered into the ear of another just before they started the attack, but you had attorneys for at least 2 of the suspects claiming it was actually self-defense, right, claiming that they were actually struck first after the supposed victim kicked their car.
He confronts the guy and said, "What are you doing?" That's when, and this clip does exist on social media, it doesn't paint the whole picture, this white individual reaches over, says, "That's your car," and slaps my client in the face.
You then also had the mother of the defendant facing the most serious charges, telling WLWT this about her son.
"I want to put it out there, and he's not a racist. He have a biracial child."
But then others, they took a different angle in their defense of the suspects. Cincinnati Councilwoman Victoria Parks provoking a storm of outrage when she replied to the fight video on Facebook saying, "They begged for that beatdown. I am grateful for the whole story." Then several of her fellow council members condemning her comments, saying that elected officials should never condone violence. And you then had a GOP state representative, Phil Plummer, saying that Parks must resign immediately and adding, "Defending violent criminals who viciously beat innocent people is disgusting." But then also when WLWT reached out to Parks, not only did she confirm the post was hers, she stood by it. Right, and then as all of that is playing out, you have other people debating and talking about how did we get here? Arguing that what happened here is a very serious but isolated incident and it shouldn't have become a political football of the national culture war. For example, an op-ed in the Columbus Dispatch writing, "Our Republican leaders and possible future governor's collective outrage against it is smart but divisive politics that builds on a long tradition of freaking white people out about the scary black uprising overtaking larger American cities." With it then pointing out that nobody lost their life in this brawl, whereas gun violence claims hundreds every year, including a mass shooting at a Columbus house party this month. And you had that piece asking, why push for policies that improve the the lives of Ohioans when you can race bait and shake your finger at political opponents at the same time, with it then finishing up by arguing that this is not strictly a Democrat or Republican issue. Right? Instead, saying crime is an issue that Ohio's Democratic mayors have to address, but so do its Republican governor and J.D. Vance himself, who represented the state in Congress and now serves in the White House. And actually, in fact, with that, yesterday you had the governor and Cincinnati's mayor announcing that the state highway patrol would work with city police on traffic enforcement, freeing them up to address other crimes. Right? And so all in all, that is where the story is right now. There's a lot of moving parts. We're gonna have to see what happens. But in the meantime, I'd really love to know your thoughts, reactions, and opinions.